Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Live on the Lawn. And hey, I'm so happy that you are here. You made it. So, congratulations. This is our second episode, and it is just my genuine joy to be here with you, talking, learning, growing. If you don't know me, my name is Jeremy Haynes, and I will be your host and your topic tour guide for the next however many minutes this episode is going to go. So, lock in. Get focused. We're going to talk about some cool things. If you don't know, if this is your first time joining, we say here that the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. And so I believe what you water grows. And so this is a really cool opportunity to water certain topics, things in our lives that we want to see grow in abundance. And so strap in, lock in. We're going to get right to it. We are in a new year. You made it to a new year. Congratulations. I feel like 2024 was an interesting year for me because if you know me, you'll know that I love people and I love running around and I love doing a ton of things. And I feel like this year was like a culmination of burnout, or last year was like a culmination of like all this burnout from doing that and a reset in my life where I was focused on stillness and I was focused on really self-reflection and seeing things in my life that worked and that didn't work. And it was really hard, but it was really, really worth it. And so I want to talk about the new year. I want to talk about how your new year is going. I would love to know. Please let me know. I would love to know how your new year has been so far. Maybe you are still keeping very strong with your resolutions and you're like almost a month in and you're like, I have not messed up. You are going hard. Good job. And maybe it's like, you're just like, no, I'm done. The year barely started and I'm cooked. I tried to cook. I tried to work out. I tried to have a diet. I tried to do all these things and I just can't do it anymore. I do encourage you that if you feel that way, to reset, start again, just because you might have messed up or made a mistake or you didn't keep to your regiment or your schedule, you got it. So pick your head up and get it done. But I think it's funny, as we go into the new year, a lot of times we have these cool kind of cliches that we say. And we'll say stuff like new year, new me. We have these new resolutions, right? And sometimes we have resolutions without revolutions, right? And so we'll make all these promises, and then when we break them, it all kind of fizzles out. And then we're just like, what is going on? And so for me, what I felt was really important was last year, I started really looking at areas of my life that needed to change. I started looking at things in my life where I was like, I'm growing, but there's like a ceiling and there's a cap on how far I can go. And I say personally that you can't, okay, let's say it like this, where there's awareness, there's authority. And so if there are things that are going on in your life that you don't really recognize, and maybe you're on autopilot and maybe you're running and you're focused on running so much that you've not taken the time to actually start becoming. And so you think that because you have all this intensity that you're making progress. But as James Clear says, he says that intensity makes for a great story, but consistency makes for great progress. And so you can say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and you can fill up your schedule, but what good is it if you fill up your schedule, but you never take the time to fill up your soul? And a lot of us, we find comfort in movement because stillness forces us to search within ourselves to see what is toxic, what is harmful, and what is dangerous. And if we said this on the last episode, that you can have water, right? And you can water things, but if what you're watering isn't good, then you're growing something that's going to destroy you in the future. And so it's super important to take this inventory. And so I bring that up because in the new year, we say things like happy new year, new me. And as beautiful as that sounds, as amazing as it would be that as the second it hits 11:59 on the clock and it's winding down by the second and everyone is counting down and it finally gets to 11:57, 11:58, 11:59, Happy New Year. It would be amazing that if the old version of ourselves disappeared. It would be amazing that if the mindsets of dysfunction and the toxicity in our lives and the trauma that we've dealt with over time, that it all went away and that the new year was just a reset. Everything was perfect. That would be amazing. And that sounds ideal. But the problem is that it's just that, an ideal, or an idea, I should say. And so for me, I started realizing, I'm like, this is not necessarily about this cliche of a happy new me, but what does a happy new me really look like? And I want to ask you to take a second and reflect. What does a happy you look like in 2025? And I'm not talking about all the materialistic things. That's great. Like if you get a new car, if you get a new job, like you're balling, that's incredible. But what does a happy new you, the version of you that's happy, look like? And as you take time to think about that, I would love to give you a hint. I think the happiest version of you is the whole version of you. I believe with everything in my being that the happiest version of you is the version of you that is whole. It's the version of you that is healed. It is the version of you that is set free from mindsets and beliefs that maybe you can never become, maybe that you're not enough, maybe that you have to prove your worth in what you do opposed to who you already are. I believe that the happiest version of you is the whole version of you. And I believe that begins with a perspective shift, and that begins with a mindset reset. Can we talk about this idea of a mindset reset real quick? Because I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to look within yourself and identify ways of thinking that you know that aren't good. I want you to think about conversations and circumstances and times where maybe you've interacted and engaged with people and you don't feel like you're enough, so you project this ideal image. You project this ideal image. And you know what's actually really dangerous and scary about that? A lot of times we walk around like projectors. That's what we do. And so instead of actually showing who we are, we project this image. We project this perfect curated scene that is just beautiful and it's amazing and it's incredible and it's not real, right? Because the second someone else walks past us that might have more maybe influence, clout, financial resources, confidence, whatever that might look like, all of a sudden the image that we have projected gets distorted. They're walking past it and we're just like, oh, you're in my image. It's not solid. And so then we start becoming more and more insecure. Is that a mindset that needs to be reset? Maybe it's this idea that you don't think that that you don't have the confidence or you don't have the ability to pursue your dreams, pursue your God-given purpose on this planet. There's only one of you here. How do we reset that? How do we change that? Okay? I think we go from looking at things from a pessimistic perspective to a perspective of purpose. And I'm not even trying to say, yo, you got to switch between pessimism and optimism. I am a naturally optimistic person. That is just who I am. I am from the South, right? So even when it comes to sarcasm, if you say sarcasm in front of me, I probably will not know what you are talking about. I remember a little backstory on me real quick. I was born in Louisiana. I moved to Seattle. Culture shock. People in the South are so nice. The nicest people you'll ever meet. You'll go to like Walmart and you'll just be chopping it up. And next thing you know, you're with the person that you just met eating dinner with them. And they're talking about their grandma's like ragu, like pasta. And I'm just like, this is amazing. This is incredible, right? That's how the South is. People are really kind. They're conscientious. They're nice, right? In Washington, everyone is sarcastic. So like the way how I just personally look at it is like when I first moved there, they would just say all these sarcastic things. And I'm like, I'm not gullible. I'm just really trusting. So you could be like, the sky is green. And I'll be like, bro, when did that happen? Is the ozone layer like melting? Is that their gases? What is going on? Because that's just how people in the South are. We're very trusting. I simply say that to say I'm a naturally more optimistic person. I like to see life through the lens of possibility. But I'm learning that even looking through the life of optimism isn't enough. Looking through the lens of possibility isn't enough. Looking through the lens of purpose is the best filter, because just because something is possible for me to do doesn't mean it's something I actually should pursue. Just because it seems good doesn't mean it's beneficial. Just because it looks good doesn't mean it's good for me. Just because it's green doesn't mean it's good. And I believe that begins with a mindset shift. And for me personally in my life, I realize that your mindset is dependent upon what you set your mind on. And that changes everything. For me, I'm a big believer in faith. I'm a big believer in Jesus. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says, it's in Colossians 3 verse 1 or 3 verse 2. I think it's 3 verse 2. It says, since you've been raised with Christ, set your mind on the things above, right? Now, maybe you don't believe in God. Maybe that's not your vibe. Maybe you're still on your spiritual journey, and that's totally fine. But I believe this still holds a lot of weight and a lot of truth, even just for you to apply in your own life. Check this out. Set your mind on the things above. Set your mind not on the things that are trying to pull you down, not on the things that are trying to weigh you down, but get an elevated perspective of purpose in your situation so you'll be able to realize that what's going on in your life is not designed to break you, but it's designed to build on you, right? And why is the mindset shift so important? Why is the mindset reset so important? Because I believe that the beginning of you seeing the new you in this new year only happens if you're able to look back. I only get the confidence to look forward if I'm able to appropriately, through the right lens, through the right perspective, look back. Right? Because I can look at last year and I can look at things that happened. I can look at maybe people that left my life. I can look at job situations that I was like, I really wanted that to come through and it didn't. I can look at relationships. I can look at fears and traumas and amazing moments in my life. And I can look through it through the lens of, oh, that was an opportunity. That was a possibility. But if I don't look at it through the lens of purpose, I will miss the entire point. I will literally take the foundation of something that I can build on and I'll bury it because I don't understand its value. And last week we talked about this idea that abuse just means abnormal use. And where the purpose of a thing is unknown, abuse is inevitable. So in my life, if I don't know the purpose of my pain, I'll abuse it. If I don't know the purpose of possibility, I'll abuse it. I will do everything when sometimes I'm probably shouldn't do anything. Some situations I should just leave alone. Some things I should just let them go to the wayside. Some things I should just put my hands up and be like, you know what? That's how it's meant to be right now. And I don't have to be a control freak. I don't have to force it. So looking through the lens of purpose orients us towards our future, the healed version of ourselves, right? We take those steps, and that starts with consistency. Consistently being able to look at what's going on in your life and looking it through the lens of truth. But that only happens when you properly self-reflect through the right perspective. Okay, we're getting somewhere. This is what I want to tell you. What if everything that you went through last year, what if all the pain, what if all the tears, what if all the anxiety and depression and worry, what if it wasn't actually the worst thing that could have happened to you? What if it was the best thing that could have happened to you? And you're probably looking at the other end of this screen, or maybe you're listening and you're like, Jeremy, you are crazy. What are you talking about? How does that make any sense? What if everything you are going through is actually meant to build you? What if the depression was actually meant to give you a demographic of people now that you can speak to through the lens of empathy, because you know what it feels like to lay in your bed and have all of these dreams and aspirations, but feel like you will never get out of that bed because of what's going on the inside of your heart? What if you can't stay still? You don't know what it's like to stay still because all of the anxiety in your heart tells you that you have to move constantly. Your body is waging war against your mind, and you feel like it is you versus yourself, and you're trying to understand how you will find peace. What if there's someone else that on the other side of you overcoming your fear and your pain and the things that you're going through right now in your life, what if on the other side of that is purpose? What I'm trying to tell you is everything that you're going through right now, everything that you've been through is actually the thing that you need to make you become the happy new you that you're looking for. Because the happy version of you is the whole version of you. And so you have to look at these things and say, okay, I'm not just saying, yo, chill with the depression. I'm not saying, yo, chill with the anxiety. What I am saying is let's get to the root of it. Because if I don't know the root, if I can't identify the root, I'll never be able to address the fruit. I'll cut it down. Even with weeds, I'll pull weeds out. And guess what? It'll come right back. I'll cut the fruit off, but the fruit will grow right back. So let me get to the root of this trauma. Let me get to the root of this pain. Because if I don't get to the root, I will run past it and I'll never grow and I'll never develop. And I'll be going into these new years with all of my tools in the past that I actually need to help grow and develop me. Right? So put that into perspective. Even after this episode, I challenge you to sit down for maybe just 15 minutes and make a list of some things that you went through last year that were really hard, that were really maybe even damaging. And say, you know what? Let me look at what came from this. And let me also identify how I can grow from this. Because I can't control what happens to me, but I most certainly can control how I respond to it. And guess what? A lot of us like to react, but reaction is not good because reaction lacks intention. But when you choose to respond, you are committing to responsibility. You don't have the word response without responsibility being in it. So you're taking responsibility for what happened to you and saying, this happened to me, but this is not who I am. This is not where I have to stay. I can become, and I will become. I'm not going to be a statistic of sadness. I'm not going to be a statistic of my past. I am going to set the precedent for my future. And that starts with me addressing what's going on right here in my life. That happens with me addressing what's going on right here on my lawn. That's what it is. Right? Now, that sounds daunting. I get it. That sounds like a lot. Probably like, okay, Jeremy, I got to address this stuff. I got to figure it out. And I'm not going to say it's not that hard because it's not true. But it's not as hard as you think. It requires you taking time and being still. For me personally, even just something practical that you can do that helps me in the morning when I get up, I go right into my quiet time, get my notebook, get my pen, start journaling. Prayer is really important to me, so I incorporate that as well. And as I do that, I find peace. And I challenge you. Give it a try. You will not be disappointed. It has literally changed my life. But I can't say that I was always like this. I can't say that I was like this. Like I said, last year did a number on me. And because last year did a number on me, it required me to adjust some things in my life. And so for me, I realized as I took time to self-reflect that I'm someone that was always running. I love people so much. So I was always pouring into people. I was always pouring into opportunities. I was always pouring into things. And I began to realize that the cup from which I was pouring from was running dry. And I had so much that I was giving and I didn't have enough to replenish what was in me. And I started being burnt out and I started being tired and I started just I don't want to deal with people. And that's not me. I knew that there was something in me that needed to change. And even in that, I was like, you know what? Figure it out. It's going to be cool. And if you know anything about me, I love traveling. I love food. People say that they are 5 love languages. I will say that there is 6 because food is my love language. So like food just touches my soul in a way I cannot explain. So I love traveling, love sightseeing, love seeing things that are beautiful, love eating things that are amazing. And within the last couple of years, I've been traveling a lot. And, even growing up, I was born in Louisiana. I lived in Seattle. I moved there when I was young, moved to Chicago, and then I moved to LA. And I realized something, that even in all of my traveling, I was like, oh, let me go to this place and it'll be better. Let me go have this experience and it'll be better. Whatever that looks like for you. Because a lot of us, we find ourselves escaping from the thing we need to confront because it's easier. But if you always escape from the thing that you're meant to confront, you never escape from it. It just follows you everywhere you go. And so I thought that I needed a change of scenery, when in actuality, I just needed a change of what I see in me. I'm going to say that again. It's not about a change of scenery. It's about a change of what I see in me. Because the issue with traveling to all these places and living in all these different places, even when I moved to LA and I was like, my life is going to be reset. It's going to be great. Well, I had a physical reset, but I didn't have a mental, emotional, or spiritual reset. And so the problem is that if I think my life is going to change because of my location, I'm absolutely wrong, because I take me everywhere I go. You take your negative thinking, your dysfunctional habits, your fear, pain, you take that with you everywhere you go. You take that into every relationship you walk into. You take that into every friendship you enter. You take that into every job that you walk into. And because this is the case, you will find that you cannot escape. You might escape for a moment, but you'll constantly be having to escape and run and run and run until one day you are so tired, your metaphorical lungs are on fire, your legs are on fire, and your life is on fire. And now you're having to take a second and say, yo, I can't live like this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. I can't keep running. I have to sit down. I have to confront this. I have to do it, right? And so one thing that I think is also, really important on that note is that if you're seeing something in your life that's not working, what are you doing to address it? What systems are you watering, right? If you have goals, dreams, aspirations, what are you watering your life to change it? Once again, that requires self-reflection. And I just want to hammer that home. Self-reflection is so important. Because you cannot identify, let's roll that back. You cannot fix something that you refuse to identify. That's literally like saying, okay, there is a issue in this building, the building of my life, and I have a hammer, and I'm just like, I'm blindfolded, and I'm just banging on things. And I think that I'm actually creating more damage because I can't see what I'm doing, because I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm actually making something worse, that if I just took a couple of seconds to think it through, I could actually heal and make it better, right? So super important. When it comes to your goals, right? Once you begin to start healing and seeing what's happening in your life, you can start having the proper goals. And actually, I want to say one more thing before I even get on the topic of goals. We're going to go there. I want to talk about this. I was saying that all the things that have been going on in your life are actually designed to build you up. See it from the right perspective, talking about all those things. But I want to also say one other thing on that note. What if, let me put it this way. You can look at all the things that are going on in your life as separate. Oh, this happened, or this was painful, all this stuff. But if you don't, once again, look at it through the right perspective, you'll miss the greatest opportunity. It's like baking a cake. I love cooking. I love baking. I love baking better. Baking is better. I don't know. There's just something about making brownies, and you just have the brownie batter, and you're just I prefer the brownie batter over the brownie. It might be an unpopular opinion, but in my opinion, it's the best. But I say that to say, on that list of things that you're creating and you're putting together, everything tastes good when it's all mixed together and worked together. So you could look at a list and be like, okay, I got eggs, vanilla, I got salt, sugar, I got flour, baking powder. How is all of this gonna make chocolate chips? I don't know the recipe off heart, so roll with me. But how is all of this gonna make something delicious? Well, that's the key. All of it does. So if I take away the salt, if I take away the vanilla, or if I take away certain ingredients and I try to sanitize metaphorically my story, if I'm not honest and authentic about what's going on in my life, and I take away these issues and I take away these ingredients, then I don't have a beautiful end result. Let me put it like this. Your issues are your ingredients. Your issues right now in your life, the things that you think disqualify you from walking in your purpose, are actually the things that qualify you if you look at it through the right lens. Your issues are your ingredients. That is so insane. That is a wild thought. You're like, oh, well, that's salt. Well, yeah, too much salt is a lot. You don't want to put that in brownie. Like, no one's going to want to eat your brownies. That's just not going to be a thing. But if you look at it from the right perspective, just a little bit of it. What I'm saying is you don't have to tell your story all at once, but even as you're living your story, you can sprinkle a little bit of truth about what's going on. You can sprinkle a little bit of vulnerability about what's going on in your life. And you'd be surprised how that actually creates this beautiful thing that now everyone wants to partake in and enjoy because you stepped out first and you were honest. There's a scripture in the Bible in Romans 8, verse 28, and it says that God works everything out for the good of those that love him and are called according to his purpose. So your issues are your ingredients. And for me in my life, I can only speak for myself, that when I surrender my fears and my anxiety and my issues to God, that he begins to work it out in such a way that it becomes better. It gets baked better than what I thought it would be. And then I start realizing now moving forward, because I have the context going into certain situations and circumstances that seem difficult or hard. I'm like, no, these issues are actually my employees. They're working for me. He said it's working for my good. That's the confidence I have because I've seen it happen in the past. These issues are my employees and it's working for me. It might seem like adversity right now. It might seem like adversity right now, but it's working for me. It's working for me. I will look back and I will say everything that I needed to make the best meal, to make the best cake, to make the best brownie was in this moment, metaphorically speaking, that I needed to press forward and I needed to press in. And as I did, I received the purpose on the other side of what was innately painful. So I wanted to say that before I moved on to goals, because now that gives me the proper perspective to view my goals. I can look at these things as setups and not setbacks. I can look at these things as things that launch me instead of things that delay me. I can look at this as things that move me closer to my goal than further from my goal because I have the right perspective, right? And so I guess the best way to transition into this next thought is that I love something that James Clear says. I've been reading Atomic Habits. I love the book. It's incredible. He says, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Okay? What does that look like? In your life, do you have systems of success? Or do you have systems that offer success, the idea of success, but never actually present success to you? Systems. Okay, Jeremy, systems. Like you're talking, I'm sure about like ways how I go about doing things. Another way I could say it, what do your habits look like? And I'm not saying this from a place of a person that has arrived. I'm saying this from the place of a person that is on a journey just like you. What do your habits look like? How do you treat people? Because it all goes back to your mindset. If you have habits where you start off and you're once again super intense and you have this crazy, like it's not about just being like, oh, I'm going to work out 100 days in a row and I'm never going to miss it. And that's intensity, and that makes for a great story. But consistency says, let me do something that's a little bit more reachable and attainable. Let me actually maybe try something that let me try working out 3 times a week. Let me maybe instead of eating out 4 days out of the week, let me eat out 2 days out of the week, and let me start cooking on those 2 days that I don't. Let me start implementing change over time. But those are habits. Those are systems, right? And the reason why your habits are so important is because your habits become your habitat. How you live right now determines where you'll live and who you become. How you live right now determines where you'll live and what legacy you'll leave behind. And so, on a practical level, what do your habits look like when it comes to just conversation, emotional intelligence? Take some time to think about that. I can say personally in my life, something that I've really been working on is treating people with love, treating people with kindness. Now, the reason why that's important to me is because I believe that kindness and love changes the world, and so did Jesus. And so in my conversations with people, and if I claim that I believe something, I'm like, okay, I want to live this out to the best of my ability. But loving people is so hard. It is so hard. It's probably one of the hardest things that you can do, because loving people authentically requires you to sacrifice how you feel all the time. It requires you, like, embracing this new version of myself has required me to literally be like, the old person that I knew that I thought was good, that person, I don't rock with that dude. That dude needs something to change in his heart. And that perspective shift happened when I started being like, you know what? What's unhealthy here? Let's get to it. What's not green here? What's dying here? It's the hardest thing to do, but it's the most rewarding thing to do, because I'm realizing, this habit, if I don't deal with it, it will become a habitat. And you know what's dangerous about it becoming a habitat? I'll become so comfortable that I'll begin to hibernate. And I'll begin to live on autopilot. I'll begin to sleep my way through things that I should be awake to. I should be aware of the fact that if I respond like that, it can break someone. I should be aware to the fact that if I say something, I have to come through on it. I should be aware to the fact, if I'm not aware of these things, then it will be autopilot all the time. I should be aware of the fact that I can't keep running from my pain. And like I said, I'm going to use me. Because maybe in me using me, you'll see you. That's my challenge to you. My challenge to you, even after this conversation that we have, to think on these things. And when you go into other conversations with people, don't think about, vulnerability is scary and like, me being honest is hard. Think about, maybe this person will see themselves in me. And maybe in me being honest, I can ignite a spark of change. Right? And so when it comes to our habits and how we handle things, what are a couple of habits? I want you to write this down. What are 3 habits that you know that are not good, that you could start actively working toward changing this week? And you might say, Jeremy, 3 strikes and I'm out. I can't do that. Okay, maybe you just pick one. For all the overachievers, pick 3. You're not off the hook. If you're an overachiever, go for it. But if you say, okay, let me pick one. What's one habit this week you can start working on? And if you want a bonus one, because you say 3 is too much, 1's too little, I'll take 2. I'm right in the middle. That's a bar. It rhymed. Maybe you pick one habit in your life that you know you personally need to change. And then a second habit would be treat people with kindness this week. Give people grace this week. Show people love this week. You can pick either one of those. It's not hard. And although love, kindness, and grace are free, it will cost you something. You watch and you see. But that right there that's changing your habits. That's changing your mindset. And the last thing I'll say on mindset and habits, because they go hand in hand, is what you meditate on is who you become. My dad always says something. He says, what you think about the most is most important to you. And so, what do you think about the most? What are you meditating on? Are you replaying these scenarios in your head and conversations with people that maybe have or have not happened that are fueling your self-doubt? That's a habit. We got to change that. That's a mindset. We have to reset it. What are you meditating on? Because everything that you speak, everything that you say, everything that you do is a reflection of the version of you that no one else can see, but that is the essence of who you are. Out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth will speak. Out of the treasury of your heart, or the lack thereof, your mouth will reveal if you are bankrupt or if you are blessed. Your mouth will reveal if on the inside of your heart, if you are concentrated on what is depressing you or what is pointing you to your destiny. Your mouth will reveal everything that is going on, but you can change it by meditating on things that are above and not below you. You can do it. And so my encouragement to you as we've kind of toured these different topics, in a brief recap, is just Happy New Year, first of all. But more importantly, do you want to meet that you always wanted to become but have never known? Finding the happy new you begins with healing, because the happiest version of you is the whole version of you. And that healing only starts when you start checking in with yourself. You start taking time to self-reflect. You start saying, okay, what's toxic? I need to address it. And as you do that, you start addressing it by shifting your mindset. You shift your mindset, you create time, you create intention. And as you do these things, then you have the right perspective. You start seeing things not through the lens of pessimism or through the lens of over-optimism, but through the lens of purpose, which actually should be realism. Purpose should be realistic for you. And that's how you should live your life. And so when you do that, then, my mind is changing, because I'm changing what I'm setting my mind on. So I'm setting my mind on purpose. So now everything I do is from the perspective of purpose. Every conversation I have with people is from the perspective of purpose. The way I love, treat, act, carry myself, it's all for the purpose of impact and purpose. And then when you do that, you start to see this change in your life. You start to become introduced to really the happy new you, because you're healing as you're walking toward purpose. Purpose through the pain. Purpose through the rain. Purpose through the fear. And purpose is not the absence. It's not the absence of pain. Once again, like I said, I think pain actually drives purpose. But purpose is actually more like an umbrella. You're walking around, you're like, okay, it's raining and this kind of sucks. But I know that even though I'm getting a little bit wet, I know that I'm covered. In the end, I'm covered. I'm good. I'm going to be okay. And as you live your life that way, as you change your mind, as your mind is renewed by what you think, because now you have a purposeful mentality, you're able to properly address every situation in your life, and you're able to heal. And so that is my challenge to you going into this week. Going into this year, find a place of purpose and stick to it. Because in that place of purpose, you will ultimately find peace. Because you will realize, this is who I was destined to be. This is who I was meant to be. Let me speak to that too. There's peace when you're walking in purpose. There's peace when you're walking in purpose and on purpose. Like every step you take has a rhythm behind it. Every word you say has a meaning behind it. Every action you do has intention behind it. You are showing the world that I am going to be the authentic version of me, and I'm going to push away all these voices. I'm not going to be a carbon copy, because guess what? The world is waiting to see you. The world is waiting to see you with your quirks, with your weird jokes, with your dark humor or light humor. I'm black, so I got dark humor either way. That's just how it works. But the world is waiting for you to be you. The world is waiting for you to love unapologetically what you love. Anything from architecture to anime, whatever it is, you stick to it and you own it, because that's you embracing the new you. The you that does not care about limitations of things that people have said, because we're so oftentimes focused on a limitation, which becomes a label, but we don't realize that we have a name. And your name is greater than any label that has been put on you, because let me tell you something. People only put labels on things that they know or they think they know. And they're like, oh, well, I know this is what this is, so you're this, or you're just shy. It's just, you're just weird, or they don't understand you. They don't understand you. That's all it is. So they put a label on you, but your name reveals the sterling core of your purpose. And once again, you got to switch your perspective. Understand that the name that you have, the fact that you're breathing right now, it's a miracle. And it's not one that I take lightly. And so I want you to know that today, I want to water your soul. I hope this conversation has helped to water your soul. I hope this conversation has helped to water your mind, how you think, your emotions, how you feel about what you think, and your will, how you choose to live while you're in between both. And so I believe this is your year. This is the year for you to become happily new. And it starts with a step each and every single day, and we're all on the journey. And so that's all I got for you today. I'm so grateful and happy that you tuned in, that you're listening. I would love to know what other topics you want to talk about. So feel free to leave a comment on this video, send a DM, whatever works for you. Please let me know, and invite a friend. Maybe there's someone that you know that's struggling with watering their mindset, watering their life, becoming the better version of themselves, and not in their own strength, but truly in taking proper, purposeful steps. That's where you find it. And so if that's someone that you know, send them a link, hit them up, tag them in the video, whatever you want to do. I would love for both you and them to be on this lawn with me as we talk about growth toward purpose. So thank you for tuning in. Next episode drops a week from today, and I'm so grateful you're here. Please remember, going into your week, that the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. So let's continue to water it together through authenticity, through vulnerability, and through honesty, because that is where freedom is, and that is where you can find your happy new you. Until next time, my name is Jeremy. I'm going to see y'all.